The next paper that is we presented is called by Drs. Encisco, Gerardo, and Ponsky called Morbidity and Mortality and Innovation Turning Complications into Patents, coming out of Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Akron.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to present. We have one relevant disclosure. So let's start by talking about the problem that we wanted to address. Sorry, it's not advancing.
Can we get another clicker up here, please?
Can you advance the slides just directly from?
Just see where that down arrow is. Yeah, you just have to be a little more precise. Sorry.
That's okay. So let's start by talking about the problem. So in short, the problem we are addressing is that it's difficult to incorporate the mindset, culture, and process of innovation into the daily life of a busy surgeon. I think as surgeons are going about their lives, they're thinking about ways to improve the care, either in cases, thinking about better operative techniques, maybe new devices, or just better care management in general. The problem is that as we finish up the case and go on to the next task, we don't necessarily have time to think about how to put those ideas into practice. But what we'd like to have happen is for surgeons to scrub out of the operating room and think not only about the next case, the next task, but think about their ideas and how to put them into practice. But that's a difficult thing to change, and so how can we realistically bring innovation into our daily busy lives? One idea is to go to where the problems are, to think about the problems, and because that's typically when we think about how to make improvements and how to change. And where do we think about the problems? We think about them at the M&M conference weekly. We thought the M&M conference was a good place to bring up innovation because it's a time when we have the part of our routine regularly, and clinicians are involved there. And like I said, it's the time when we think about how to make improvements. So we challenge the presenting residents, fellows, and surgeons to think not only about the latest research and how that can be applied to the complications and how to improve the care, but also to think about an innovation, whether it's a device change or a process change, something that might help avoid the complication in the future. So M&M becomes M&I, or Morbidity, Mortality, and Innovation. So how do we put this into practice? So we bring together a diverse team of our team, the surgeons, the interested trainees, and an engineer, and we go through a previously described and previously studied process or method called systematic inventive thinking. In this method, you're using only what you have in your closed world, as they call it. You're innovating with only things that are available to you. And you're going through it systematically using any or all of 5 thinking tools. We have used this a number of times, and we wanted to be able to do this quickly, and so we developed our methodology, and we called it rapid sequence innovation. There it is. Like I said, we've gone through a couple of examples, so I'll go through a couple of them. So one of the ways we've used the SIT method is in device innovation. In this case, the problem that we addressed was feeding tube occlusions. We had a couple of different complications involving feeding tube occlusions, so we wanted to figure out a way to improve either the device or think of a way to resolve the occlusions. In this case, we used a thinking tool called division. In division, you break up the device or the process into all of its pieces and parts, all of its components, and you rearrange them and think about how you might create a new device or a new process. In this case, we thought about the rigid outer wall of the tube and the lumen on the inside, and we thought, what if we switch those and put the rigid inner core with the lumen on the outside and distensible walls to allow for dynamic changes in the walls as the medications or feeds were passed through. The team has achieved a patent with this invention, and the project is now moved on to Ben Gurion University, where some engineers are helping us to implement our ideas. Another application of the SIT process is process innovation. In this example, the problem was that it was difficult to have in-person visits for the bowel management program during the COVID-19 pandemic. At Cincinnati Children's, we have a number of patients coming from some distance for the bowel management program, and as we all experienced, during COVID-19, they were unable to come in person, and they were unable to get their regular imaging that is typically a part of the bowel management program. In this case, we used the thinking tool of subtraction, which is where you subtract a key component of the device or the process, which is often difficult for people to do, but we thought, what if we subtract the imaging? It was a crazy idea, but preliminary data showed that 62% of the time the abdominal film did not change management, and 75% of the time the contrast enemas did not change management. So patients were able to continue receiving the care in the bowel management program even without the regular frequent imaging. A number of other ideas have come out of the M&I conference, but overall we believe that rapid sequence innovation is a fast, scalable model for ideating solutions to real-world problems discussed at the M&M conference. It engenders a culture of innovation and allows clinicians to participate, and it can convert M&M from a historically painful conference to an enjoyable discussion. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
This paper's open for discussion. Dr. Slater.
Bethany Slater from University of Chicago. Great presentation. I really love this idea. Very nicely presented. I was wondering if you knew approximately how many cases from M&M that you were able to find innovative solutions for.
That's a great question. I don't have the exact number, but I know that frequently, just about every week or every other week now, someone has, at the end of the presentation on the last slide of the M&M template, they've even added a section for innovations. There's like the research ideas and an innovation idea, and most people do think of something. Not every case necessarily has a innovative solution, but most of them do.
Andreas Marsuni, Upstate. I have two questions. One, I really like your idea. One is, how do you actually find the logistics? How you connect with the engineers in M&M? Is this a separate meeting with an engineer to kind of figure this out? Is it, because you mentioned something about engineers being involved in the process. And the second question is, it sounds a little bit like the project or the program that Tom Cromwell developed at Stanford, where they basically have a 2-year protocol to invent something, but the addition of a person in the business world actually is very helpful, because you can go from the development also into the business side. It might also be helpful, just a thing to consider.
Yeah, thank you. I think your first question was related to involving the engineers. Is that correct?
Yeah, how's it logistically done?
So we had a partnership with Ben Gurion University, and so I should back up. We have an engineer affiliated with Cincinnati, and so they join all of the meetings where we talk about the innovations, and it's really helpful because they bring a separate lens to the meetings, separate from the physicians, and so they have a lot of great ideas. And then they formed a partnership with Ben Gurion University, and so some of the engineering students there have been working on it, working on the project with us.
Great, thank you very much.